Welcome back, Airbnb family. So you are interested in automating your Airbnb portfolio using co-hosts, or you are ambitious to become a co-host, and that is why you are here on this video. This video is going to cover a lot of information. It's going to teach you what you should expect if you're a co-host, like what you can charge, what services you should be providing, and then for you hosts out there, we're going to cover the different co-hosting statuses. There's different permissions levels that you should be aware of, and how to properly utilize a co-host. And we're even going to talk a little bit about how to train new co-hosts to ensure quality control and preserve your 5-star rating as you begin to automate these properties, because of course you'll have less control when somebody is co-hosting for you. So let's first talk about the permissions levels for co-hosts. This is the one thing that I think needs to be known. There is a admin level for every profile that is created on Airbnb. Every listing has a dedicated admin. One myth here is you cannot transfer adminship to anyone. Basically, that means if you set up a listing and it has 20 or 40 reviews, you can't sell that listing and move it and have somebody else adopt that listing with the reviews. That's not possible. The only way to do it would be to sell the whole Airbnb account, and I'm not sure if Airbnb actually really wants you doing that either, since they don't want you selling off individual listings and giving somebody else reviews. They want to prevent that, so you can't farm reviews or stuff like that. So when you're an admin, that means you have final authority on the account. You can add and remove the co-hosts, and you can do pretty much whatever you want with the listing. So the two other permissions levels are both co-host permissions levels. When you invite somebody to co-host on your account, they become a secondary host. That means that they can read everything. They can do all of these. They can do all these little things like, like check people in and out and everything else. But there's some things that they cannot do, which is they cannot send or request money, right? So they can't actually go in and ask, guests to make an extra payment, or they can't, go and make a payout. These are things that a secondary host cannot do. And they are not listed, like when somebody's searching for the profile or they're searching for listings, they will see you still. Like your face will pop up, your profile will pop up, your phone number will be the default phone number still, stuff like that. You can upgrade them from secondary to primary, and you can do this in the co-hosting section of every listing. So each listing, if you go to edit it, you'll see the about listing booking settings calendar, and all the way to the right, you'll see co-host. Click on that, scroll down where your co-host has been invited, and you can make them primary. This means that when somebody finds the listing, they'll actually see the co-host's profile. All the information to contact the co-host will be given instead of your profile. The co-host can now make all the reservation changes, give guest refunds, request money, do all the resolutions for the profile, everything, except modify the payout information. Right? So what's important to be said about the payout information is when you set up a co-host, when you first give them an invite, you're going to decide if and how much that co-host gets paid. So for you co-hosts out there, this is for you, not for hosts, but for you co-hosts, how much should you get paid? A lot of management companies that handle absolutely everything for the property charge as much as 25%, and that includes handling all the cleaning and everything else. Now, I charge 10% plus cleaning fees to do all of the same stuff, but I do that because I'm just trying to balance out my portfolio and give my cleaners extra work, and now give my new property manager extra work. So really for me, it's just a way to incur a little extra revenue so I can afford the people that I've hired. If you are to look at booking platforms, they'll actually charge 10% just to automate your profile. They don't even handle your cleaning or anything. They just manage your calendar and your pricing and talk to your guests for you, and everything that can be done remotely. So 10% is still kind of like a really low amount. So if you're a dedicated co-host, charge at bare minimum 10% plus cleaning fees, and that's where I would start off. Once you're a seasoned co-host and you're good at it, you can start to justify to charge more. You can also do bulk pricing, like if somebody gives you multiple listings, then of course you can re-rate it. I'm considering I've got one guy who wants to give me like 18 properties, and we might do it for 7% instead of 10, for example. So for you hosts out there, here's a tip. If you want to in-house your co-hosts, which is what I'm doing, I've hired a property manager. She is now the co-host for all of the accounts. And we've done this over the course of 2 weeks. What I did is I created my own co-host account. So Airbnb Automated has a Airbnb profile now. And so what I've done is I invited my Airbnb Automated profile to be the co-host on all the accounts, and then I'm paying that profile $0, right? So my property manager logs in to the Airbnb profile, and she does all of her work through it, but she doesn't have access to any of the money. And this is what you want to do as a business, is you want to protect yourself from liabilities and oversight. So the first thing first is sandbox out the finances from a second account, and then invite that account to handle the co-hosting. So it will be the secondary host on all of your listings, and this is totally normal. And then from there, you can start to ramp up the presence of that Airbnb co-host account. So what I did is I gave this new property manager primary status on 5 apartments that were all in the same building. And this is one that she lives next to. So this allows her to be able to show up there real easy and handle any issues real last minute if she made a mistake, right? So if she forgot to tell a guest something, or forgot to communicate with the cleaners and maybe a key got lost or something because she's new, you have to let her make these mistakes. You have to let her grow as a host. So what I did is I just made it really easy for her to fix her own problems by making her primary only in the building that she lives next to, and thus now she can, in a safe environment, slowly gain her confidence and learn from real world experiences, not just from what I tell her. And so far that's done really well. And actually today was the day that I activated her as a primary for all of the 21 accounts that we have on Airbnb. So what I've done is now she, or the Airbnb Automated profile, will be the face of all of the listings, and her business phone number, because we activated a phone dedicated for this as well, so she has a phone from the company. That phone number is the phone number that guests are going to call and text and everything else. So if she ever leaves, the Airbnb profile and the phone line are still all owned by us, right? Airbnb Automated. So we can change out that position without losing any workflow, without like having a gap in customer service or anything like that. So by having a dedicated phone line, a separate phone, Airbnb profile that you control that has no access to money, all these things are the initial things that you set up when creating your first Airbnb co-host profile. So other things to consider when adding this co-host to your account is they will need to understand each property and what makes each listing unique. So we have about 8 different buildings total for all of our accounts, and each building has its own nuances. Like the check-in instructions are similar for each building, for the units inside those singular buildings, but then of course the apartment numbers change. Passcodes might change a little bit, stuff like that. But so every separate building in every separate city has a different type of relationship with the building management. There's different check-in instructions. Some of them use lock boxes, some of them don't use lock boxes, some of them use concierges. So what you should do is you should, before you actually hand all of this workload to a person, you need to double check everything. Everything that you want to make sure that guests understand about self-check-in, late checkouts, penalties that they might receive. Are you legally just real clear on your house rules? And then further, is your house manual easy to understand? Is it good step by step? Does it have all the information? Do you actually find that guests are calling you for clarification on things that could be fixed in your house manual? Make sure that you cover all of that and get that out of the way. Separate, you also have check-in instructions that are separate from the house manual. Is your check-in instructions section good as a standalone resource, or do they still need the house manual? What I like to do is make sure that the check-in instructions have pretty much everything that they need. So that way, even if they haven't read the house manual, they can still get in and be safe. And then in my check-in instructions, I still remind them to read the house manual, and I guide them to where the house manual is. So I've done this for each of my properties. Then go through your listings too and make sure that you've just checked everything off. Have a checklist and make sure that every property is actually stocked with everything that's needed. Because what'll happen is you add a co-host, you've been floating along, kind of doing everything with like this semi-process driven style, and there's going to be a couple things that just don't get done. Like you might be missing core amenities, or like I always mention, like missing a toaster or something. And what'll happen is your new Airbnb co-host will get hit with this, what could be a small problem for you, but a big problem for somebody that's new, right? And you want to actually anticipate those things and get those out of the way. Make sure that your internet's good, the Wi-Fi password's somewhere easy to be found, that there's no missing amenities, that you're stocked on all goods. And now, let me add, speaking of inventory, I actually have some apps that I use that I needed to make sure that she uses to restock stuff. So our cleaners do most of the restocking and the cleaning and the make-readies, but let's say that sometimes things get missed. I use a couple apps, Postmates or Favor or DoorDash or other apps like this do like on-demand services. In Texas, we have Favor, which is super easy, but I believe that other local grocery stores have their own apps, and I think it is Postmates that'll do the same thing, or Instacart, where you can order shampoo or laundry detergent and have it delivered. Amazon has a Prime service called Amazon Now, I think, or Prime Now, that you can have stuff delivered within 2 to 4 hours. So in that separate phone that I have, what I've done is I've added these apps, and I've got the company credit card attached to all these apps. So let's say a guest says, hey, there's no clean towels. Yikes, right? Well, she can get in the app and just order stuff if she's unable to come and like fix it on her own. So if anything's missing or they just want a favor done, like, hey, could you also add something for us, blank, blank, and they'll actually pay like with an upcharge for certain things, like a concierge service will actually send them an item or through like Prime Now or Favor or Instacart, and we can actually charge them extra right through the Airbnb app and like do a resolution. We use Google Calendar for the cleaning calendar, so all of our properties are exported through an iCal to a shared Google Calendar for each city. So her phone has the Google Calendar logins for each city, and all the calendars are imported. So she's communicating with the cleaners, and she's making sure that the cleaners know which units are up and due to be cleaned. And in the calendar, it actually shows the guest's name and phone number and all the contact information. So the cleaner and the co-host through the Google Calendar can also contact the guests if need be. And that's another aspect of the co-hosting account and a way to utilize that person. So you have your co-host handling all the inbound messages. You can give them template messages inside the messenger too. We have like a welcome message that reminds them to read their house manual, and it shows that video that I made, the one that I'm allowing you guys to use. You can just check our video playlist and you'll see it. It says for guests. It's a video on how to find the house manual. So we have a template message we kick out for every guest so they can find their house manual. And then I have her have a template message on checkout too, as a way to help increase our 5-star reviews. And I'm actually going to do a pilot on that last message to see how it helps with our performance on reviews, and you'll see a video for that later. You have multiple permissions for your co-host account, secondary and primary. If you're the admin, you cannot transfer this, so the co-host account cannot become the admin, nobody else can. Then do not throw your co-host in hot water by making them the primary on all of your properties right away. I don't even make them a primary at first. I just have them watch, right? They're the secondary host. They can still see all the messages. They'll see you talking to guests. They'll see you handle issues through the app. And it's almost like they're shadowing you. Once you feel like they're ready, make them the primary on an account 2 or 3, but make sure that they're all in a like nice tight cluster and somewhere that it's easy for them to get to so they can handle issues in person. You want to plan for them to fail. You want to plan for them to forget things. And that's okay. This is how they're going to grow and be good. So once you see them like real smooth with it and you feel confident in their ability to take the additional workload, then make them a primary on everything. So I advise having a second phone and a dedicated line for that Airbnb account, that co-host account. Of course, separate the money from that account so nobody can mess with the money, and then make sure that they have all the tools that they need in the phone. You just make notes for each listing, special things to be noted about each one. Let them know if the building management has, any nuances per building, kind of walk them through that. Make sure that it's all still in the phone. Give them the calendars that they need. If you have a channel manager, give them their channel manager login for it. Give them all the apps that you would need, like I use, Instacart or Prime Now, stuff like that. And make sure it's just all on the phone. So now, if you're a co-host and you're looking for best practices to do the same thing, these are the types of things that you'll tell a host that you're going to want to do for them. So you can get a dedicated phone line, you can get a dedicated co-host phone, and you can provide these things to them, and they can actually port in a phone number to yours because there's an opportunity to add like a second line to a phone, something like that. So make sure you have all of your ducks in a row as a host when you're selling, or as a co-host, because when you're selling a host on the service, they need to be able to believe in you. Like, hey, I can be confident that this person can take over my property and it's not going to cost me, an arm and a leg, or it's not going to increase like some liability and cost me my ability to host or cost me, reviews. So go back through this and take extra notes if you're a ambitious co-host, and try to start to map out like a prospectus on walking another host through what you're going to do for them and how it's going to work out. So also, if you are a co-host to be and you want more clarification, just leave it in the comments in this video, and I will work on making another video for you potential co-hosts out there and things that you can provide to hosts that would make it worth paying you. So again, thank you for watching Airbnb Automated. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the other side.